Good evening, and welcome. We will have our student board member, Cassandra Keeves from Poly High School, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone, please stand. Face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cassandra. We welcome those who are here for purposes of addressing the board at the proper time and in the order of their request. For those who have not already submitted a request, we have provided forms in the back of the room and also have additional copies here in front of the Assistant Secretary's position. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. You may also make a request to give testimony on an item not listed for discussion today. However, a full discussion on any items not listed on the agenda will have to be delayed until such time as the item can be publicly posted in advance as a regular agenda item. If you wish to ask questions, please address them to the chair and not to individual members of the board. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's closed session agenda and wishes to report that the board in closed session today voted to approve a settlement agreement and release of all claims in a special education matter, providing consideration, accommodations, and a release. The vote was unanimous, with all 5 members participating in the vote. Public hearing, there is none. Call for agenda items for separate action. Adoption of the agenda is posted.
Mr. President and members of the board, this isn't not an item that needs to be, I'm not modifying the agenda, but I just want to point out something. So on your agenda, under number 25, under new business, the second item, use of school facilities after hours, is an information item, but on the fact sheet, it was listed as an action item. It is an information item, but you don't need to, it's posted correctly on the agenda, so you don't need to amend it.
Thank you, Chris. Further discussion? I'm sorry.
What's the motion?
I'm sorry. Approve them.
Just approve?
Yeah.
Okay,
Approval
take
of the
it.
agenda.
Okay. Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Approval of minutes.
Move approval. Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. We are at recognition of retirees, and 2 of the board members will be calling up the retirees and ask you to come to the podium, and they will read a resolution about you, and after they read the resolution, then you can come up and shake our hands if you don't have a problem with that. And so let's get started.
I left mine in the car.
You did? Okay, I'll start
messed
with
up.
John first. Mr. Meyer?
It's my pleasure to call up Patria D'Aliva. Thank you, Patria. Whereas Patria D'Aliva is retiring after 26 years of dedicated service to the students of the Long Beach Unified School District, and where she served the students of the district as a teacher, instructional aide for Head Start, and where she's a knowledgeable, student-focused educator who's prepared lessons designed to motivate her students using a variety of teaching techniques suitable to their needs. And whereas her love for teaching shows as she checks for understanding, follow-through, and she conveys her high standards for her students, helping them to do their best. Whereas through her collaboration with colleagues, she has challenged herself to develop the professional skills that she needs to reach students and to set them on a course for more productive classroom life experiences. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Long Beach Unified School District commends and expresses deep gratitude to Patria D'Oliva for her significant and lasting contributions to the education of hundreds of students.
Thank you. I would like to thank this district, one of the best districts, opening a door for me. And 28 years with working with the district, it's been a pleasure and an honor to me. And I thank you for opening the door for me in my career. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anyone you wanted to also thank or recognize that's here with you tonight?
This is my daughter, a former Bernie,
Okay.
Stephen, and Polly.
Can I get you back up to the microphone?
I have a two daughter that's I'm a proud of a student of Long Beach Unified School District. I started as a parent at Head Start program, just looking for a preschool for my two daughters. My first daughter, she was at Bernie, and then Stephen, and then also Polly graduate. And my second daughter is also in Bernie, Stephen, Polly, and Cabrillo. But it's so sad that my daughter died October the 10th on a motorcycle accident on Phuket, Thailand. That's why I decided to retire, because this is one of her wish that I will retire early. So I know she's happy because her wish was granted that I retired this early. That's why I'm thankful for this school district that gave me the opportunity to become a successful mom, and now I end up to be in the program for 28 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, very much. Dr. Benitez?
Yes, thank you. I have the honor and privilege of asking Rufina Cruz to come to the podium, please. Okay, whereas Rufina Cruz is retiring after 19 years of dedicated service to the students of Long Beach Unified School District, and whereas she has served the students of the district as a teacher for child development centers, and whereas she has designed her lessons to make sure each student had the opportunity to thoroughly absorb the subject matter of her classes, and her outstanding rapport with students helped them to achieve at high levels as they learn to become better thinkers and problem solvers. And whereas she has consistently demonstrated excellence in her classroom, successfully working with families and the community to provide powerful learning opportunities for students. And whereas she is a flexible and capable teacher who skillfully adapted and modified routines and schedules to meet each child's individual needs, and her responsiveness to the specific circumstances of each learner greatly improved outcomes for her students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Long Beach Unified School District commends and expresses deep gratitude to Rufina Cruz for her significant and lasting contributions to the education of hundreds of students. Sorry. badge. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work with our little ones.
Here's that.
Thank you.
I worked hard to bring this down. Rufina, I almost lost.
Thank you so much.
It's a very pretty dress she's wearing.
I am speechless. I would like to thank Long Beach Unified School District for giving me this opportunity. This is my second country. I am from the Philippines, and I'm so happy and glad that I have gained so much experience working with Long Beach Unified School District. I started as a school instructional aide for the educational handicap, and then I became a teacher for preschool children, and I love my kids. I would like to tell everybody that I gotta miss my children. I don't want to retire. I miss my children. I love them so much. I would like to thank my superiors, my director, my CTs, and all my co-teachers, and all the aides in our school. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to call on my fellow school board member, Diana Craighead, to introduce our next speaker.
Yes. Is Violetta here? Did she make it this evening?
Say it again, Diana.
Violetta Esquivel?
Okay. We'll come back to our student speaker. And for the retirees, you have the opportunity now to go out and celebrate with your family and friends, or staying here with us as we run our board meeting. We'll leave that decision up to you. We'll have you call up again after we do get down to staff report.
Okay.
Okay, we are now at public testimony on items listed on the agenda. I do have a number of requests, and bear in mind, we are allowing 30 minutes in total for speakers. And in the event that we reach that limit and you do not get an opportunity to speak, you can leave your information with our board secretary. Our first speaker is Pamela Weinstein.
Hello, executive staff and board and Superintendent Steinhauser. We're here to thank you and acknowledge that you have put a green school operations resolution on the agenda tonight, and we wanted to thank you for your support of that. We're happy to bring this green movement to the district. We are planning our Green Summit, which is on November 16th, and we have over 100 district employees and another 30 parents and students coming. And there is still time to register if anybody's out there who's still interested. One thing we wanted to address that is not on the resolution is we were hoping to see something in the works for a coordinator for the district, a sustainability coordinator, so that we can make sure that all of our effort is moving forward.
Thank
Can
you. Any other comments?
No.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Can we?
I'm going to have a little problem with this name. The last name is, I believe, is Nanda.
Jyoti is my first name.
Say that again?
Jyoti, J-Y-O-T.
Okay, you can say it on the microphone.
Yeah, Jyoti. Could I have all the Fremont supporters up here, the kids up here with me, please? Come one, come all, children, adults too. There's three or four children outside that they won't let in because of the overflow problem, but we have 4 other boys that are outside. Can we bring them in? I don't know if we can bring them in just for this minute, and then they're gonna leave anyway. People traveled far and wide to be here today to show our support, our unified support. My name is Jyoti Nanda, and I'm representing a group of Fremont families for Save Our Fremont Playground. All of you know who we are. We've been bugging you incessantly, both with meetings and with emails, and we peppered you again today with lots of paperwork. But we just wanted to show you, we're here to really thank you for being willing to think outside the box, for being willing to take a risk, for being willing to hold Long Beach up as the model school district that it is, for the possibility of considering pilot projects and having Fremont be one of them, for thinking about this issue as equity. We have alums here, we have teachers here, we have people that have graduated, we have community members here. At the count of 3, if everybody up here would just do a resounding Save Our Fremont Playground, I'd really appreciate it. 1, 2, 3. Save Our Fremont Playground. We just really want to thank you and let you know that we're now in our Facebook page, 336 members strong, growing every day. We have signs all over our neighborhood. We've met with, I think, either spoken to or met with all the board members here. We've met with the chief of staff of the mayor's office. We have another meeting planned in a couple of weeks. We've reached out to our council members. We've done all the research we can possibly do that's humanly possible that we've submitted to you. We want you to know we're here to help you make this happen. So once again, thank you so much, and Save Our Fremont Playground.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Harit Trivedi.
Good evening. My name is Harith Trivedi. I'm a parent of 2 Fremont students. I'm also a neighbor of the school and have been for the last 20 years. I also work as a lawyer in local government in Los Angeles. I've worked on Los Angeles City and LAUSD issues, so I'll come here with that perspective as well. And I genuinely appreciate your engagement on this issue. We've had a chance to speak with many of you and with district staff, so we genuinely appreciate your engagement here. I want to offer 3 perspectives, 3 points tonight. First, I can't overemphasize the importance of community schools and the role that open playgrounds and school playgrounds create in fostering community schools. Long Beach Unified has been a shining example of a successful large school district, and I think it's largely because of its community schools, and playgrounds play an essential role of that. Community schools are hard to build and difficult and take time to maintain, but they can also erode, and that erosion takes place decision by decision. And I know from my experience with Los Angeles and LAUSD that once the bond between a community and its school and school district frays, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to restore. And we really don't want that to happen here with the school district that we care about so much. The second is a point I would like to make is from my experience, again, I work in elections in Los Angeles. I know that the support of the broader community is essential to the success of school bond measures and other funding measures. And keeping playgrounds open in the evenings and on weekends and in the summer, it goes a long way to making the community feel invested in their local school and their local school district. Parents stay engaged because their children go play in the playground even after they've graduated, and neighbors too. And so the value of this lifelong investment of the community in its local school, I can't overstate that. And especially when the district asks voters to support bond measures, it would draw from a much broader community if it has that bond between the school and its community. we're here to work with you and to work with you to help find an amicable resolution to this. I mean, my preference is to keep things as they've been for the last several decades. But there are other possibilities here that we really implore you to explore. And one of them is a shared use agreement between the district and the city and other community partners. And here, the City of LA and LAUSD may serve as a positive example. As you may know, the Rec and Parks Department in Los Angeles has entered into an umbrella agreement to keep school playgrounds opened on weekends and holidays. I urge your staff to look into that agreement. It could serve as a model here. And it's a place where we can build to have playgrounds available to all children in the district on an equitable basis. I ask you to direct your staff to aggressively pursue this and to come back with a report back on that in a timely fashion. Lastly, I just want to finish up by saying we understand that there's costs associated and burdens associated with this. We are here to help to resolve those burdens and bear those costs with you. I ask you to examine them closely and make sure they're measured accurately if they're presented to you. But there are partners there that will help bear those costs with you, and we stand ready to be those partners with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter Matthews. Hello, Peter.
Hello. Good to see you, friends, board members. Thank you so much for having me here for a few minutes to say something for our children. My daughter, Paige, is 8 years old. She attended Fremont for 3 years. My wife, LaToya Baker Matthews, actually headed up the science committee and did a lot of volunteer work as a parent. I'm a professor of political science at Cypress College myself. And to me, education is extremely valuable because my parents are both educators as well. So thank you for being the school board members. But at this point, it's a critical moment in our time, and we've got to keep this playground open because the play is what develops to change the child's brain. Their psychological and emotional development is so important. And my children, my daughter, my one child, we used to go to that Playmart since she was a little baby when I was pushing her in the little baby carriage. And not only that, we met so many parents in the neighborhood. We got along so well. I made new friends. She made new friends. Many play dates were born at that moment. And this happened for the last 8 years. So we really, really beg you to keep it open. We plead with you because it's not a matter of security. You mentioned school shootings and the fear of violence, but most of those things occur during the day, and God forbid it ever happens to our children. But there's never been a school shooting after school or on the weekend, as far as I know. And I would like to say, when I was in Cambridge, England, as a semester abroad professor for Cyprus, I saw the Cambridge Brownfield Youth Center, in which they kept the place open at least 10 hours on the weekends and about 8 hours after school. And they had programs like computer programming, fashion design, fashion merchandising for all age children, mentoring programs. We need that in America. Youth centers all over the country and all over our state and our city. For that, we have to have federal money for that. But right now, the best thing you folks can do so well is to please keep the gate open and at least let the parents come in and have a great time with their children there. Because I just love this community, and we've been a part of it for over almost 30 years now, and we'd like to always remain a part of it. And thank you so much for what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Jennifer Perez. Jennifer Perez.
Good evening. Thank you for having us on the agenda this evening. According to the parksforcalifornia.org, the state of California uses the half-mile metric to help ensure that California residents live within a walking distance to a park or open space, such as our beloved Fremont playground. A recent state survey resulted in 24% of Californians, nearly 9 million people, live over that half-mile point from a park or open space. As Harit mentioned before, the City of LA used the same metric in their 2019 Green New Deal sustainability plan to ensure all Angelenos live within a half-mile radius of a park. They're with a goal of 65% by 2025, 75% by 2035, 100% by 2050. Also using 25 existing school playgrounds as open space in joint use agreements between the City of LA and the LAUSD as part of this effort. Hopefully, this can be a model or for a pilot program for the City of Long Beach as well. According to our map provided in the handouts, we have a lot of handouts, graphs and maps in the handouts. Fremont Elementary is outside of that half-mile radius. In addition, if you look at the handout titled Local Park Amenities, you will see that our playground provides many more options for play than the parks nearby. The options do not compare. Fremont also allows for play across all age groups. If you also look at the handout titled "A Park That Serves All Ages." If you look at the graphs, the circular graphs provided in the handouts, this is considering daylight hours of usage. If the playground remains open after school and on weekends as it has been, there will be 60% community play within that time frame. If the playground is open only on weekends, there'll be 29% community play. If the playground remains fully closed, play will only happen 11% of the time for in-school play hours during lunch, recess, and approximately an hour after school. Our kids at Fremont at that point will only be allowed to play on their playground 11% of the time. The rest of our community will have 0% playtime or community time with one another. Personally, I grew up in the inner city of Southwest Detroit, and our closest park or open space was 1.5 miles away and riddled with crime. One positive aspect of that area was the community. Neighbors watched out for each other and took care of one another, much like our beloved community in Belmont Heights. My husband and I purchased in this neighborhood purposefully in 2004 because Long Beach has a reputation of being a full-blown city with our downtown and distinct neighborhoods, but also known for having a small town feel because you get to know your neighbors. Fremont has been a hub for families in the neighborhood to meet, to get to know one another, to have play dates, and to build this wonderful community we call home. It would be a tragedy to lose this piece. Oh, sorry. Anyways, I will say and end as Harit did. As a group, we are willing and ready to help in any way that we can, whether through its joint use agreements, working with other nonprofits, whatever it takes to help have a safe school, to help support our maintenance staff at the school, because I know that's a concern as well. We're here and we're open and we will fight. So we hope that you really take this into consideration, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Gina Calderon? Gina Calderon?
Hello, my name's Gina Calderon. I am a Fremont parent. My daughter's in 5th grade, my son's in 6th grade, who also attended Fremont. I am a physical therapist, and I have owned my studio for 15 years, and I specialize in helping people understand the emotional root of their physical pain. So after watching people be in pain for so long, all these adults, and having my children, I thought it would be a good idea to swing the pendulum the other way and set children's bodies up for success. So when my son and my daughter were in kindergarten and 1st grade, I conducted an experiment in their classroom called Project Brain Core. And what I did was I gave 7 different motor skills, such as jump roping, skipping, side braid walking, abdominal curl up. And we tested about 27 kids, and I went through all of them, took about 3 days to go through the kids. We came up with 2 children that were struggling the most with the movements, the coordination, the balance, the strength. Went over to the teacher and I said, here are the 2 kids that are struggling the most. And she's like, get out of here. They're the ones having the most problems with recognizing letters, sight words, all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, there's something to this. I took a team, we went in once a week and we worked with these kids. After 30 years of her teaching, she said it was the first year she never had held back a kindergartner. And there's something to the body, and there's a brain connection. There's the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere. The left is all about phonics, the right is about memory. If we're only pulling from one side of the brain, our bodies become disconnected. We need this equipment open. I suggested to all the children, have your parents come here, and you need to do body homework. You gotta do body homework. Certain kids, you give them a book, they can't read it. But if you connect those hemispheres of the brain with certain exercises, all of a sudden they have the confidence that they can. And that is really, really important. And the connections that they made, the movements, it decreases anxiety and unwanted diagnosis, misdiagnosis is ADD, all different kinds of inattention problems. And I have children that come to my studio and I think they're wrongly diagnosed, and really what they have are, or what they are in need of, is to express their bodies. And an open playground will allow more children to practice, so maybe when they're at school they don't want to because they know they're not good at it. but during the evenings and weekends and holidays, it's something that they can do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Lilia Ocampo.
Hi, my name is Lilia Ocampo, and I want to ask you to keep playgrounds open. As somebody stated before me, playgrounds are where people meet each other, make long-time friendships, and make community, create a bond, and take care of each other. When you get to know somebody, you see her kid on the street, and you see, oh, it's somebody's kid, and oh, hi, are you going to your house? Where are you going? So it's kind of taking care of each other. It helps to create relationships. It helps sometimes parents that have to work after long hours, and their kids have a place to stay and play, and somehow be safe, being watched for the same neighbors, and so that's why I think it's a good reason to keep playgrounds open. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. Andrea Waiter. Andrea Waiter.
Hi, my name's Andrea Waiter. I am the mother of a third grader at Fremont Elementary. I'm also Fremont PTA president. Thank you to the school board and Superintendent Steinhauser for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today. I came prepared with a whole bunch of position statements from National PTA to read to you, and then I decided in the parking lot that I'm going to speak from my heart, I think, is going to be the best way for me to handle this. I will, however, read a position statement about school facilities. The National PTA believes the school environment significantly impacts students' academic achievement. National PTA affirms that adequate school facilities are not only crucial to the success of our nation's public schools, but they are also a reflection of and resource for the communities in which they are located. Since school facilities are a capital asset constituting a large investment of public funds, the National PTA desires that all school facilities encourage community utilization and involvement. National PTA stresses the importance of open communication within school districts. The National PTA encourages administrators, educators, parents, students, and community leaders to work together with their architects to design new or renovated facilities that are tailored to meet their specific needs. A child's growth and well-being are the first concern of the National PTA. The National PTA reaffirms its intention of working with all public school groups in an effort to serve the best interest of all children and youth. As a parent and as a PTA president, I believe giving all children the best childhood we can offer them, which includes safe, open spaces to play, is in their very best interest and ours. We already know there is a direct correlation to outside play and playground use to a child's growth, development, and well-being. I would like to leave you with this. What started with a letter home a few weeks ago and the tsunami of reactions that followed from the Fremont community has evolved into a much deeper understanding of what all Long Beach children, families, schools, and communities are currently experiencing with the closure of campuses district-wide. Together, we can do better. We cannot make decisions based on what's most convenient for adults. We are here today to help find creative solutions and build a pilot program that will keep safe, open play spaces available to all Long Beach children, families, and communities to use outside of school hours. Thank you for your time, effort, and consideration.
Thank you very much. Herlinda Haru. Herlinda?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Erlinda, vivo cerca de la escuela Edison y Chávez y tengo 4 hijos y me gustaría que mantengan abiertos el patio de juegos de las escuelas.
Good evening. My name is Erlinda, and I live close to Edison and Chavez Elementary School, and I have 4 children, and I would like to keep the playgrounds open at the schools.
Para que tengan lugares seguros y que estén familiarizados con ellos y las familias puedan disfrutar después de escuelas y cuando están de vacaciones.
And this is so the children have a safe place to learn, a place that they are familiar with, and that where they can spend time with their families.
Hace 3 años a la escuela Chávez pusieron una barda, fence.
So 3 years ago at Chavez, a fence was installed.
Y no se puede usar las canchas, son 4 para jugar, 2 canchas de básquet que no se utilizan y nomás una está afuera. Y me gustaría que estuviera abierta los fines de semana y en vacaciones. Y me da gusto que la Escuela Freedom está luchando para que esté abierto el patio, porque es muy necesario, porque nuestros niños están en la televisión, en el teléfono, en la computadora y necesitamos sacarlos afuera. Gracias.
So Edison has 4 basketball courts, and they're not being utilized. So I would like for them to be utilized. So if we could keep those open. Also, I'm glad that Fremont is fighting to keep their playgrounds open, because we need to get our kids outside to play instead of them watching TV all day or using the phone.
Thank you. Noaki Schwartz.
Good evening, board members. I'm here with a letter from one of the teachers at Fremont, Shelley Edwards, who's been there for 25 years. A few weeks ago, I was at school on the weekend. As I walked on campus, I said hi to the moms drinking coffee at picnic tables and noted them watching their kids ride bikes. At the kickball court, there were about 8 sets of parents teaching their kindergartners how to play kickball. It wasn't a birthday party or anything special. It was just some Fremont families getting together and having fun with their kids and their newly found friends. At the basketball court, a game was in full swing. The players were former Fremont students who had long since promoted from elementary school, yet here they were, home from college, shooting hoops. This is the ordinary rhythm of our after-hours campus, a home away from home, a familiar place to be, and a place where friends can be found. The open community space that Fremont campus offers is what we've always known at our school. It defines where we live and will be part of our children's memories when they think about growing up. There's no argument that everyone wants a safe campus, and the locked gates during business hours is a fair and reasonable safeguard for this. But to lock everything down, to shut everyone out, feels incredibly reactionary and unfair. The unilateral lockdown of school property across Long Beach simply doesn't make sense, especially in communities like ours, where the school grounds serve as the heartbeat of the community and a place for all to gather. The idea of a pilot program for an open campus after hours is a credible suggestion. Historically, Fremont has been thought of as a family campus. We have outstanding parent involvement. Our PTA works tirelessly to keep our school growing as a learning community. Our former Fremont families were diligent in bringing the science and computer labs to our school, and for many years, they fully funded them as well. Additionally, parents rallied to bring the GATE program to the 4th and 5th grades. PTA continues to fundraise all year round to provide funds for field trips, the Meet the Masters art program, and performance art programs that we are privileged to take part in. Today's parents and teachers, however, are facing a new challenge. We are rallying for a different purpose. We stand together with a plea to keep our campus open. I've never questioned the notion that one of the fundamental rights of being a child was to simply play outside and run in an open space. It feels like an alternate reality that we are fighting for this simple joy of childhood. Please keep our playground open. Sincerely, Shelley Edwards, 5th grade teacher, Fremont Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. Kara, is it Malia?
Good evening, Board of Education and Mr. Steinhauser. Thank you so much for giving us this forum tonight. I come here to talk about investment in my 3 minutes, and it starts with a personal narrative. I was born and raised in Long Beach. I went to Fremont, I went to Jefferson, and I went to Wilson. I am now a real estate developer in Long Beach, and I teach at the School of Public Policy at USC. My kids go to Lowell and Rogers. I've watched my daughter learn how to roller skate at Fremont. I rode my bike for the first time at Fremont 40-some years ago, and my son plays basketball there. All this to say, these are our social infrastructures in the city, such as libraries, parks, open campuses. If we don't invest now, how can I expect my son and daughter to raise their family and invest in the city? It is so important to not think of our short-term goals, but our long-term goals. I am such a proponent of Long Beach. Clearly, my investment is, I would say, off the charts. I cannot believe that my kids are going to the same schools that I was raised at, and I'm so proud that they are still thinking that they may want to raise a family in Long Beach. So that's all I have to say, is that I am not a parent of Fremont, I am a student of Fremont, and I really hope that you think about these ideas of connectivity. These campuses are our social glue. It is connecting our families together. And if we don't have that, where's our investment? And why would we continue to work and live and play in such a fantastic city? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart.
Good evening. Thanks again for giving us an opportunity to speak. A lot of people have said a lot of things. I don't think anybody here questions the value of parks. The optics of this is tough for me to understand. I'm a taxpayer. These are public lands, and I see bond money that's potentially being used to close off access to a park. This park creates community. It's being used actively as community. Don't get me wrong, you guys have an extremely hard job. I respect the complexities of many issues. This is a tough issue. But the world is complex. Putting a fence around a school because of perceived dangers is like putting your head in the sand. We need to find a way to solve a problem so that people can play. Kids need to be able to play. It's really simple. I'd like to find a way to work for fixing this. I'm going to keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you. Larissa Stowe Norman.
First of all, I just want to thank you all for putting this item on the agenda, because we are so passionate about this as a community. Speaking for myself, I'm going to speak from the heart too. I have a daughter that we adopted at birth, and we noticed right out the gate from a very young age that she had some challenges. And so we took her to Dr. Amen, who does brain mapping, and we're told that she has ADHD. You can actually see it in the brain. And that she also has a mood disorder that if we don't really work with her could turn into a very challenging for her in her lifetime, and for all those that she connects with in her lifetime could be challenging for all of us. And one of the things that makes all the difference in the world to this kiddo is play. I can't stress how important it is for this little one to get to run and to use those monkey bars and to have normal connection with other kids. The time at school isn't enough. She's not a child that exceeds right away scholastically. In fact, I had my conference with her teacher today, Mrs. Reed, and she is really challenged scholastically. And I'd love to talk to the parent that said that the body Okay, I want to talk to you. I want to learn about that because she is so challenged scholastically, but she thrives when it comes to getting to play on the playground and getting to connect with other children in that way. So I implore you, I know if my child has these issues, I can only imagine what is going on in other people's homes behind closed doors with their kids as well, and the challenges that they're facing. But what I do know is, like others said, connection. When we have a place to connect with each other, our brains grow, our ability to succeed in life flourishes from connection. We know that major breakdown happens with drug addiction, with alcohol dependence, not because it's a disease, but because there's a lack of connection. That's what we're finding now scientifically. So you take away these opportunities for us to connect with each other, for families to connect, for children to connect and play, and we're really asking for bigger problems in the breakdown of society itself. If society loses the ability to connect, our society will fall. So this is big, and we, all of you, are playing such a huge role. This is an important time where we can choose love rather than fear and connection. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Dresner? Okay. Let me get this one to the council person. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Trevor Davis Chesney, Fremont class of 2014. Here you have a whole group of people here for one reason. Rarely has society ever been in a scenario where people of all different races, viewpoints, and identities all agreed on one thing. However, this is one of those cases. We are all here discussing the closing of a harmless public space near and dear to my heart. Me, alongside my childhood friend, whom I met on the Fremont grounds over a decade ago, have come to understand why the city has closed a place vital to the community. Fremont was my second home for my entire childhood. The day I walked by it coming home from Wilson and saw it locked up nearly brought a tear to my eye. I began reminiscing about my memories, learning to bike, skateboarding, running, playing basketball, and playing hide and seek with my dad when I was 3 or 4 years old. This loving, harmless place brought the community together. People of all types come on the weekends for so many different reasons. I knew that at the end of my longest, roughest days, I had Fremont to go to shoot hoops or even just look at the stars on the grass. It puts a hole in my heart knowing that the coming generations of kids won't get to experience the gift Fremont brings to the city of Long Beach. But I'm not giving up, or else I wouldn't be here. I ask you, school board, why? Why are we closing up a place that generations before me have lived their childhoods on? Why are we putting a hole in our community? Why are you taking away a place so near and dear to my family, my friends, and my heart? I really advise you guys to reconsider. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. I'd like to call up the Honorable 3rd District City Councilwoman Susie Price.
Thank you, members of the board, and Dr. Williams, Superintendent Steinhauser. Thank you very much for allowing me and us the opportunity to address you tonight. I want to start by saying that I'm incredibly grateful for your service on this board. I've been a Long Beach Unified School District parent for over a decade now and still going. And many of you know me, and you know me personally, and you know me as an elected official, and you know that in the 5 years that I've been in office, I have never once come to this board and asked for anything from you. I have never once challenged anything you have done or any policy that you have set publicly or otherwise. I'm so grateful and supportive of the work that you do for all of our children, including mine. And I have the unique privilege to have John Meyer as our representative, my neighbor. I see him regularly walking his dog, and he will tell you, I never stop him on the street and say, what about this policy or that? And I have the engagement and the ear of Megan Kerr as someone with whom I've had a lot of dialogue over the years about things here and there. But I respect our jurisdictional boundaries, very much so. I'm committed to it, and I stand here in a support position to all of you. But I want you to know that Fremont is a little bit different than the other schools in the 3rd District. My children, Lowell, Rogers, and Wilson, and all of those schools are very close to open public spaces. I taught my kids, both of my boys, how to ride their bikes in the playground at Lowell before that playground was closed on the weekends. I have gone there on occasion and seen kids climb their fences, my children may have been involved, to play basketball in the playground. So I know that the need is there. Fremont doesn't have as ready access to open spaces as some of the other schools in my district. Kettering, Mann, those are the elementary schools that are in my district that are, Lowell, of course, Naples, have a lot of access to open space. Fremont borders a very busy, increasingly busy business corridor that is becoming more and more popular. And it's just not an area that's conducive to kids running around and playing on the street. I know that the decision before you is a difficult one. I'll tell you tonight, I very much enjoy being on this side of the dais than on that side of the dais. I know the various things that you have to consider, but I stand here before you as a member of the City Council to say that if there is a partnership opportunity available that's creative in nature, that can be deployed as a pilot program using Fremont as an example, perhaps it can set forth some policies for schools throughout the district. And I stand here as a member of the council, and I know I speak for all of my colleagues to say we want to support open access, open space programs for children. And I know that if there's a partnership, and if we can afford it, we will all be very supportive of having a partnership with you, continuing the partnerships we've had with you for decades and generations, and allowing that to be a pilot in Fremont. So I stand here sharing with you, please don't rule out any options. Allow the city to help facilitate a solution for this problem, and together I think we can find a way to make this a very successful pilot that we can deploy elsewhere. And I don't think we need to make any changes to the schools in the 3rd District already that are closed on the weekends, because like I said, they have open access, and as a parent of those schools, I can tell you we have adjusted to the closure of those schools on the weekend. So we don't need to go back and make any changes to the closures. Let's just talk about the school that we have open and figure out how to keep that one open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We want to thank you all for your comments and really your concerns about this issue. And that issue will be addressed later on the agenda. Thank you all very much. We will now call on Diana Craighead once again to see if our student is here.
Yes, I've been waiting for Violetta.
Is she?
I don't know if she came in.
Okay.
I don't think she did.
Mr. President, if I may, we always, of course, welcome adults to our meetings, but I want to particularly thank the students who took time away from dinner and studying to be here tonight. So it's always great to have you participate, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you, John. We are now at staff report. There are none. We will go into public testimony. Oh, she's here. Okay. Before you speak, we're going to be introduced by our board member, Diana Craighead.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. I'd like to introduce our Jefferson student. This is Violetta. She is a 13-year-old Latinx spoken word artist. She is a published poet who uses her words to cope with stresses in her life and advocate for humanity. Violetta speaks on climate change, Latinx girl power, immigration reform, and DACA. And the poem that she'll be sharing with us today was recently published in a piece by CNN Opinion's Jane Carr. So Violetta, I will let you share with us your poem.
So this poem is dedicated to those who were affected by guns, and it's titled Generation Lockdown. Who would have thought sanctuaries would no longer be safe? Even churches, schools, safe spaces are lost. We've become Generation Lockdown. I was in first grade when the Sandy Hook school shooting happened. That day, 27 young lives were taken. That week, my school put up an iron gate. As our parents dropped us off, we'd say goodbye through thick crimson bars that looked just like a cell door. That week, parents all over America were reminded that life is as short as a moth's wing, and fear as commonplace as dishes in the sink. February 14th, 2018, I'm in 6th grade when Valentine's was not the same. Our hearts were broken that day when 17 students in Parkland lost their lives to senseless gun violence. That year, we marched for our lives. That week, our school got a full-time armed security guard. America never gets to heal when our wounds reopen again and again. There have been more mass shootings in 2019 than there have been days in this year. For now, I'll just lock down my heart. I don't want to prepare for the next bullet.
Thank you for being here and sharing that with us tonight. And we're going to have you go around and shake everybody's hand. Yeah.
Well done. I'm a former Jefferson student myself.
So very nice, very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Thank you for being here.
She has another poem.
another Oh, poem? Okay.
So this next poem is titled Mermaid Goddess. With so many safe spaces lost, this poem reimagines the Little Mermaid in today's polluted waters. I shimmer like Hawaiian oceans, speak every language of the sea. Lenguaje de sal y perdón, tongue of salt and forgiveness. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty, sunken treasures of trumpets and pearls, a sacred coral necklace on the brink of extinction because of rising temperatures. I have long dark hair that goes past my shoulders, glows with sun-kissed copper highlights. But remember, mermaid hair don't care. Mermaids got bigger fish to fry. Mermaid goddesses know that climate change is real. As our oceans spike a fever from the northeast Atlantic to the western Pacific, waves and worries increase, kelp forests dying, plankton poison, leaving nothing left to snack on. Don't underestimate the bottom feeders, for they are critical to life in the ocean. I've got who's its and what's its galore, 13 million tons of plastic, cigarette butts polluting our waters, straws blocking the airway of sea turtles, bags 100 billion used per year, choking our whales, seals, and dolphins. Global warming gentrifying coral reefs no longer red like the tides of our demise, displacing our homes. Mermaid goddesses don't care who you love as long as you're happy. Snails or whales, starfish and sawfish, all of them deserve to be loved, all of them endangered species. So much at stake with all that you take, my voice is 13 times stronger than the fake tan men who won't reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Mermaid goddesses don't lock mer children in abandoned caves to the depths of the ocean's sorrow. Dear Chiquita mermaids, be careful when you ride the waves of the future. Remember your beauty on the inside, your compassion for the climate, hope for your home. Have no fear of depth as rising sea levels become the new normal. Little ones, use your voice. Keep our home healthy. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's its and what's its galore. You want thingamabobs? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. Please, don't call me Little Mermaid. Unlike Ariel, I would never give up my voice for a man. Do I have time for one more?
Go ahead. You're on a roll.
This poem is dedicated to mi gente, or those who don't understand how immigration affects a child. It's titled, I Faked a Smile. I faked a smile. Kids do it all the time without being told. They call Los Angeles a sanctuary city. But one day, there was a harsh knock on my door. It pounded and shook our tiny studio apartment. There they were, 5 or 6 policemen, green vests, letters ICE stitched across their backs. ICE, Immigration and Custom Enforcement. La Migra, guns and unmarked black card just like the movies. At the door, they asked for someone else, a different guy, different name. My mom says, he doesn't live here. We don't know him. Ma'am, can you let us confirm this? They asked in their serious voice. My mom and I held hands, crying in the middle of the street. I never knew how long and deep my street was until this day. At school, we are scared. My friends and I live in fear. How can we learn Common Core when the core of our hearts are breaking? I cannot imagine my life without him. He is my stepfather. I call him Beto. To me, he is el Chavo del Ocho, el Loco, el Gordito, el Beethoven, el que se cree muy, tú sabes. But now he is known as A2057122204. A stands for alien, belonging to a foreign country or nation, an illegal alien. He was taken away early that morning for an unpaid parking ticket from 2006. No time left, we did not say goodbye. I held back the tears all day and I faked a smile. Now when I visit him, he wears a lime green jumper. My hand is small, his is big. The glass is cold between our hands. When families are torn apart by borders and laws, it hurts. When you take our people away, it hurts. I have a question for you, Mr. President. Una pregunta. In addition to corn, dairy, labor, and música, why can't we start to export education, love, compassion, solutions, educación, amor, soluciones, like a plus sign that adds to, instead of a division line, complicated and long? Why can't the border be a line of love? Thank you.
Stay right there. Stay right there, young lady. Stay right there. Stay right there. I'm sure that we got some comments from my fellow board members here. Anyone?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Meg?
I think we're all taking a breath up here. Thank you so much for your voice. It's been a rough couple of days, a rough week in our city, and there's a lot of sadness seeped into all of us, and you express it so beautifully, what we face in the midst of sadness. So thank you for coming. Thank you for using your very strong voice. It's a gift tonight amongst the sadness, and it's a gift to us in this district. So, wow, I'm just super proud to know that I work for the district that you go to school in. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Board Member Kerr. Absolutely. When I get home tonight, I'm going to show the video from tonight to my daughter. I think we should show this at every school to all students. But I think just as important as that, one of the references that Board Member Kerr, it's that this is what you get from a high quality public education, right? This is the product to everyone watching. We may not always get it right, but hey, it'll come out through your art when we don't get it right. So this is also a set of tools and resources to impact decision making. So it's not art for art's sake here. It's a very politicized expression. So felicidades.
Gracias.
Thank you for that.
You know, I have to say, I did write poetry in the 6th grade, but it wasn't as good as yours. But what a tremendous talent you have, and I hope you cultivate that talent and carry it forward. It's really fantastic. Amazing, amazing work. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You bring pride to yourself, your family, our community, our district, and to Jefferson Middle School. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your gift with all of us. I think I speak for everybody when I say that we look forward to what your future holds. I want you to come back in a couple of years, let us know what's happening. Your future is very bright. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. That was well worth waiting for. We are now at public testimony on items not listed on the agenda. I don't have any request. We'll move to business items, personnel. Mr. Meyer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. I present the following proposed actions prepared by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resource Services, approved and recommended by the Superintendent. Appointments 154, leaves of absence 7, abandonment of position 3, termination of service 1, resignation 16, retirement 7, abolishments, lack of work or lack of funds 1, amendments 1. Certificated personnel, appointments 49, in-service changes 65, leaves of absence 3, retirements 4, amendments 1, and I move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously.
Mr. President, before you move on, you just approved an appointment of David Miranda, who's the new Executive Director of Facilities. I believe he's in the audience. Is he in the audience? So, sir, why don't you come up here so everyone can see who you are and they can, you can introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is David Miranda. So Dr. Williams, members of the board, Superintendent Steinhauser, pleasure to be here. Very passionate about school facilities and school facility issues. And really just thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your team, and I look forward to working with Long Beach Unified.
Welcome, David.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Board authorizations.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Mr. Superintendent, could you take us through sort of the process for board authorizations and why this is needed?
I'm going to give it to Mrs. Ashton because she's done this for many years, and Mr. Zaid can follow up too.
So board authorizations are, this is a routine recommendation for the board for our teachers with full credentials to allow them to teach another subject area. So for middle school teachers, we ask that they complete 12 semester units in a particular subject so that they are authorized to do that. And then for high school, they need 18 semester units. So for today, we have 215 teachers who we would like to ask for your action on and approval. So this is something that comes to board every single year, so it's very routine.
So it's not necessarily because we have a shortage of teachers in those subject areas?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Coaching assignment.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion?
Go ahead, I took the last one.
Thanks. I just want to acknowledge this list of coaches, some of whom I'm personally familiar with, some of whom coached my own children through this system, because we know that coaching isn't just they punch their card and show up at practice and show up at a game and move on, that for many of our students, sports and athletics can be the reason they go to school that day. And it could be the reason that they get through the day and get through high school. So to our teacher coaches who are especially valuable of having extra eyes on their students on campus and their athletes throughout their day, I really want to thank the coaches and the people who step up to be that extra person often for our kids at the high school level, because the work is sometimes immeasurable and thankless. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Instruction?
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report A.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report B.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I recuse myself from participation in Finance Report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the payees.
Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved, 4 votes to 0 with 1 recusal. Business Department report.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Purchasing and contract reports.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Other items, superintendent items, the Williams UCP first quarterly report.
Yes, this is something we have to do every quarter, and there are no complaints, and this is just an information item. No votes need to be taken.
Thank you very much. We are now at unfinished business. There is none. New business, Board Policy 3510, Green School Operations.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, is it possible to have a brief report on, I know Mr. Rising potentially, we talked about it in the business meeting, about what this policy is and isn't and how it came to be? Thanks.
Absolutely, thank you very much. So, President Williams, board members, and Superintendent Steinhauser. So today what we're presented with is a collaborative process. We've met with various different green teams that's been led by a lot of our folks at Rogers, some of the folks that were speaking just earlier today, to really develop a policy that we feel is sustainable as we move forward for programs and practices that we can implement across the district that really work with a lot of our existing processes, so it becomes sustainable in the way that we address the different operational aspects of the district. We pulled together teams and we collaborated with the various different groups, from our transportation department that does a lot of our waste hauling, to our operations department who affects the cleaning and services that we provide at the school site, as well as looking at it from a maintenance operations standpoint as well too. So we're very happy to bring this forward as a point where we can start and sustain moving forward as we develop a sustainability plan. I guess that's too many sustains in one sentence, but we're very proud of this, and we think it's a good model as we move forward.
And I would just add that what this is really sending a message to the greater community, that the district is committed to green policies, and that it's a journey, and that we, as Alan has said, that we're going to be building upon processes. You heard that the policy doesn't talk about a sustainable director. You don't put personnel in policies. That would be a discussion that you would discuss in the budget development later in the year. But it is, as you've heard, we're having the Green Summit. There's going to be an award program similar to the one that we have for our career pathways in our schools. So this is really a great foundation to build upon for the future, and that other districts hopefully would follow suit.
Thank you.
My questions are around the point that you just made, Mr. Superintendent. As many of us know, policies are very broad in nature. So as with other policies that we've considered and passed, I would just ask to be updated on an ongoing basis, particularly in areas like the budget, right, where it comes back to us for those conversations, whether it be considerations for a sustainability coordinator and or resources that are needed to implement some of these other things in the policy itself. I think from a similar perspective, some of these are more strategic, right, and our district is and can continue to be a leader in these areas. So I think it's also important for me to highlight those specific areas that we're advancing. We have the summit this month, but also as a point of information for our board, that we have best practices in place, that some of this maybe were things that we were already doing that just weren't aligned with a particular strategy and or area that our policy considers. And because it is broken up into different areas, I guess part of this would be for me, sort of what would be most beneficial to us as a board to get reported back on, given that there's a lot of moving parts to a policy like this.
We can do like we do with on our academic side of the house, the board workshops, and break it into chunks for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I want to thank everyone that was involved, including you, Alan, and of course our folks from Rogers, because they've been working on many of these components for a long, long time, right? So this was made possible because of the various presentations that they've made at board meetings, the communications with us. So just very appreciative of everyone that was a part of moving this forward, and I'm looking, forward to implementing and upholding this policy.
And I'll just echo some of that. And I appreciate that you using the phrase, this is a great place to start, that we know that this solidifies and makes public some of the practices that we've been doing for a long time, some of the ones that are fairly new, and want to echo the thanks of those who have started this movement. I especially want to call out Kim Peterson and Kathy Procopio and Heather Morrison. I was cleaning my garage last weekend, and I came upon our green team procedure book that we came up with in 2010, and the work that was done in formation of the Green Schools Award, the first one in 2012. So knowing that there have been multiple generations of parents who have wanted to see this work done, and some of these practices are the ones that were started back then by kind of those rogue parents who came to these meetings to do this work. So I want to thank those who have been doing this for a long time, those who continue to do it and who push us to do it better. And agree, this is a great place to start, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it, and you'll continue to push us to do better, and we'll work together. Thank you.
Further discussion?
I would just add one more thing. I want to be mindful of Councilmember Price's comments. Is the council member still in the?
No, he's a
okay.
leave. Meeting.
Is any staff here? Okay.
I don't think so.
I can say whatever I want. I think this gives us another opportunity to work very closely with our city. Right, we have a climate action plan that our city is also trying to advance. And, the shared use, joint use agreement piece of it is certainly important, as it was referred to in terms of schools hours. But I think there are other areas, right, in terms of the waste reduction piece, in terms of sort of shared practices that we can move forward on together. So just another opportunity here to work closely with our city.
And I am completely blanking on the name of the parent who worked at Twain Elementary who really even did work. Lisa McCarthy, before Kim and Kathy and all of that and that crazy cohort back in 2007, 8, 9. So thank you for that historic work.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion's approved unanimously. We are now at use of school facilities after hours. Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Letitia will pass out to the members of the audience copies of the presentation that I'm going to go over. While she's doing that, before I get started, I just want to make a few comments. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone that spoke. One great thing about Long Beach Unified is that the board and staff are listen and are committed to what's best for students. We never make decisions what's good for best for adults, because we strongly believe if it's good for a student, it's going to be good for adults. So I want that to be noted. So I'm going to share, board, some slides. They're going to be very simple. And then if you could hold your questions to the end of the presentation, then we can go from there. So before I do get into the slide presentation, Long Beach has a rich history of joint projects with the City of Long Beach, the City of Lakewood, as well as the City of Signal Hill. We have actually joint use agreements with all organizations, and so that's really, really important. So the first one, I've been asked by many members of the audience, as well as, in the community, the districts we've had closed campuses for probably 25 years. I was a principal of a closed campus in 1990. So the question is, well, what are the calls for service? And for those who don't know, we have our own school safety department, and these individuals, they're small but mighty. team. They actually keep our schools safe during the school day as well as the non-school hours. So I just wanted to give a comparison over the last 5 years of calls for service. And so we look at things such as vandalism, trespassing, and I don't want to be Mr. Downer over here, but I was a student in the school district starting in 1963. Went to Bryant, Jefferson, and Wilson. Skateboards, bicycles, razors, scooters have never been allowed on our campus, and there are big signs all over that say that. So that's why you see skateboarders here. Neighborhood complaints about noise, burglary, attempted burglaries, and property damage. So these are both of these are examples of when neighbors call us to say there's a problem at School X. I'll give an example. I walk about 5 to 6 miles 6 days a week, and one of my routes is around Minigant. And one day when I was walking, I saw some of our middle school students from Stanford skateboarding off the top of our ball shed, which is unacceptable and very dangerous. And so you could imagine when I walked on campus in my sweaty t-shirt, and I had to tell them they had to leave. They asked first off who I was, and so I explained to who I was. And then at the same time, young students were on a mini bike. Number one, they should be riding a mini bike at age 12. But so we do unfortunately have issues that we have to deal with. Stevenson, on the other hand, is a school that's been closed for many, many years, and you can see we still have vandalism, we still have trespassing, but there are reductions. So I wanted to give you the next slide I'm going to go is going to talk about calls for service, and if you have the handout, it's better to look at the handout. The district is divided into 4 quadrants, area A, B, C, and D. And the dividing line between the north and the south part of the district is the 405 freeway for this purpose, and between the west and the east is a Cherry Avenue. So the majority of the schools in area A and in areas B have been closed. They're not all closed, they're all closed now, but they haven't always been closed the last 5 years. In areas C and D, there are schools who have been closed. For example, Riley Elementary School has been closed for many, many years, as well as Lowell, as we heard from the councilwoman, but they're not all closed. So areas C and D have more schools who have been open over the last 5 years. So the calls for service, again, for our school safety department, have been much higher in areas C and D versus areas A and B. We still have schools that have calls for service. Closing campuses isn't going to eliminate that. The one issue that we do have, and the reason that we have, when we close campuses, when we fence them in, we've closed them, is that unfortunately on the weekends, we have numerous situations of people doing things they shouldn't do on our campus. For example, we have our staff have to pick up needles. They have to pick up broken beer bottles and alcohol bottles. They have, unfortunately, in not every school, but in some schools, and unfortunately Fremont's had this situation too, we've had individuals who are homeless who have been on our campus. Fences aren't going to stop that because we had a situation, as Mrs. Kerr knows, where we had homeless individuals throw a mattress over one of the fences of our schools and onto the playground. So, and we also have individuals, when the campuses have been open, who have allowed dogs on the campus, which we can't have dogs on the campus. So I share this with you just to give a context because nobody wants to not have play space for students. So I'm going to share with you some options that are that we're looking into that will come back to future discussion as well as potential others down the road. So option 1 is one that's currently there now. There's a thing called the community use permit. Individuals and groups can apply for this, but there is a cost to that because when we have to have someone open the campus, we have to have someone who's there in the campus, and it costs approximately $360 to $400 per day. It's really dependent on the individual because it's overtime for classified employees, and this is for an 8-hour day. Not all permits are 8 hours, so it would be paid by that. So I'm going to share with you right now there aren't a lot of community use permits for the items that we're talking about, keeping the campuses open. Most of the community use permits are for athletic events and or things such as fairs and other activities that take place at school. We literally have hundreds of permits on a regular basis in our schools. Our schools are used a lot. So the next one is option 2, which would be a new option if we were to do this. It takes the idea, the community use permit, that would again be submitted by individuals and groups. But here, obviously the cost would be the same. But someone said, well, Chris, how much would it cost if we were to open the playgrounds on the weekends? And so there are roughly 37 weeks in the school. And so if you did 8 hours a day, it would cost roughly $1.8 million. That, and I'm sharing this big number with you because I have to give you the worst case scenario as your superintendent. This, what I looked at was if every elementary, K-8, and middle school were to implement option 2. There are roughly 63 of those schools. Knowing that not every school is not going to implement option 2, but as individuals who are in control of the resources, you need to know what's the worst case scenario. So in that particular case, if we did it 2 days a week, it would cost the district roughly $900,000. It would cost the schools roughly $900,000. Then the question was asked, well, what happened if we did it 1 day a week, for example, on a Saturday, or 4 hours? The cost is roughly in half. It costs roughly, if you were to do 2 days a week at each school on the weekends, $28,000 for the whole year. I did not, in any of these options, look at the option that we've been shared with by some of our members of the community of keeping the schools, having the playgrounds opened after hours. And the reason for that was that, as you all know, our schools are open roughly an hour after the close of each school day. So if it's elementary, it's going to be roughly, if it closes at 2, it would be roughly 3. If it closed at 3, it'd be roughly 4. There's supervision. And it is really important for the safety of our students to have supervision if we open campuses. I didn't give an example on the after hours because we have between 10 and 12,000 students in our after-school programs. We have a huge RAP program where our kids are on campus. We have Kids Club, which has roughly 1,500 kids. And we have CDC, which has an extended day, which with roughly 1,000 kids. I've received many calls and emails from staff who are concerned if these were just blanketed open, that their safety would be at risk because people could just come and go. Now, having said that, there's nothing prohibiting a school today that said, for example, if my school gets out at 2 o'clock and the school wanted to fund more supervision till 4 o'clock when the office staff went home, that they could do that today. So I did not include that in the scenario. We can look at that down the road. The next option is an option that many...
Excuse me.
Sure.
Can we go back to this part where the district pays half and the schools pay half? So if we're talking about having the schools responsible for half the cost, then that money comes out of their own budgets and that's being taken away from something else?
Yes. So, and it could be a variety of budgets. So if option 2 were to be implemented, so for example, a school could use their own school funding. They could use donations from outside groups. They could use PTAs. They could use PTOs, whatever funding source they chose to. But you're right. It would be school site resources that would be taken from something else that they were to redirect. Same thing here. So if we decide to do option 2, in the worst case scenario, let's just say 2 days a week, we as a collective group have to find a place where we would find $1 million, roughly, to fund this type of thing. And so the issue is, as we've talked about, is that if we're going to do this, we have to look at it because what you don't want to do is to build a program that's not sustainable. So, but we do want to give you the worst case scenario situations here. Option 3 is another option, and there'll be, I'm sure, many more down the road. But this sort of is building upon a program that we actually have a few programs with the city. So it would be to develop a pilot program as part of our joint use committee that we have with the city that would open one playground in each board trustee area. We heard from our speakers, and we've heard loud and clear from the board, equity is a huge issue. We cannot do anything for one part of the city over another part of the city. That's why if you look at option 2, I gave you, that's every school in the district in every area. Because we could not say, if we were to fund something as a system, it's only for school A and not for school B. So I give you the whole gamut there. Option 3 would be the same type of option. If we were to do option 3, I agree with the speakers and others who talk about a pilot, because number one, as stewards of the public dollar, we have to say, are these dollars being spent in the most efficient manner? And so if we were to do this, we don't know what the cost would be. I did have an initial contact with the director of the Parks Department to open these discussions, and they're open for discussions, just as our councilwoman had shared. But again, it's if they were to fund, and I would see if we were to do an option like this down the road, it would be a shared 50-50, deal. And again, with personnel there who could have supervised games and supervisor folks, because we all want our young people to have the best experiences and to use these play spaces in the most efficient and productive manner. If we were to go down this route, and we have to do some more homework to look at this, because first of all, a homework on option 2 and option 3, I need to survey the principals of the different schools to say, have you had requests from your sites to do this? If you were to pay, for example, would your site be willing to do this? It has to go through their site councils and their PTAs and other groups. Option 3, we need to get our committee together with the city and say, what could this look like? And I'm very thankful that we work with a city that is who thinks outside the box and who is a strong partner. And I'll give you 2 great examples. When you as a board decided, I think 4 years ago, to open our pools, which was a great thing, in a partnership with our city, we did that rather quickly, and that program has grown now to over 5 pools, and it's in the summer, and has served hundreds and hundreds of students and their families. We have individuals who are learning to swim for the first time at the age of 70, which is a great thing. And as a board, you have directed us that as we build these outdoor pools, that will be the mission for each outdoor pool. Again, an issue of equity, that each high school throughout the big comprehensive high schools, they would have, those pools would be open, free swim without a charge to our young people, which is important because we are a beach city. The other one is a program that we just started this last summer with the fire department through our joint use issue and the junior lifeguard program. Knowing that the data on the junior lifeguard program shared that the majority of the students who participated in that program were from only a couple councilmanic districts, mainly on the east side, and very few from the north and very few from the west. And so we actually sponsored our young people, and that program was highly successful. And so we are actually building on that program again for the summer this year, as well as a new program with our police department, still to be determined to come back to you. So I share that with you because I do believe that we have a very strong joint use partner in the city of Long Beach. The issue is looking at how much would this cost, when would it be, all the details, and we'd have to come back to you at a later date for that. Where I'm coming from, ideally, option 3, I would like, if it's possible and it's feasible for both entities to agree to, is to do a pilot program in the spring after the winter holiday, roughly around February, beginning of February. You know me, I always like to push people to start soon because it'd be really important for us to study the data on the usage of the pilots and to see if they're not being well used, why not, and what needs to be modified, because again, the public dollar, as you have said, Mrs. Craighood, it would mean that this board is going to have to come up with a decision of where to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, just as the schools would do the same thing, because as you all know, we're not endless with resources, and this really goes to the bigger picture of school funding on a wholly different level. But I do believe, as many of our speakers have said, Long Beach is a very special place. Many of us went to school here. Many of our kids went to school here, and many of our kids still live here, and their children will be going to school here. As a grandparent of 2, I'll tell you right now, they both will be going to school in Long Beach. And so they're already going to the DI, so watch out. So it's pretty exciting. I appreciate all the comments from folks. I look forward to the next part of this journey because I think it is a great opportunity for our two agencies, both the City of Long Beach and the Long Beach Unified, to take this as a new project under its wing, so to speak, and to look at how we can expand option 3 in the best interest of our young people. But I am going to be Mr. Downer now, okay? I'm one thing, if people can criticize me for a lot of things, but one thing you can't criticize me for is being honest. If when we do option 3 or option 2 or option 1, we cannot have bikes on the campus, we cannot have skateboards for student safety. So we can't, there are other activities we can do and should do. But we just have to, we have too many accidents and other issues that come to us that you don't always see under the claims department. So.
I have a comment about the equity part of it. You mentioned PTAs, that maybe PTAs could help fund, having the playgrounds open. But we only have PTAs in about half of our schools. And that means that the schools that don't have PTAs wouldn't benefit from that funding source. And as far as equity is concerned, I don't think when you're looking at the district as a whole that could be a real viable option. And we can't really dictate what a PTA spends their money on. And so that's another issue involved in that. But I think whatever we do, we have to make sure that we are doing right by all of our schools, by all of our students, because everything that every parent and student has talked about concerning Fremont or Kettering or any other school is that parents across the district, parents at other schools feel the exact same way about their kids. As parents, we want the best for our kids. And so we have to do everything in our power to make sure that all students benefit and that we're not playing favorites and, just because we have a more outspoken crowd, a more involved, engaged, group, that group gets more attention than any other group, that we are doing our best to serve all students. I think that's one of the reasons of our success is because we do think that way.
One thing I would add on option 3, if we were to go down this option, this path, it would be really important, in my opinion, that whatever schools, the 5 schools, because we have 5 trustee areas, would be open to all students. So just like we do with the pools. So when we do the pools for the summertime, any student in any part of the community can go to any of these pools. And we communicate that with everybody, and it's true. Parents drop off their kids in that situation where the closest to their work. So I may live on the west side, but I go to the Milliken Pool or the Belmont Pool, wherever it happens to be. I envision this type of program, if we were to do this, in the same vein, that if we were to have, for example, 5 schools in this pilot program, we would do the same thing. We would communicate to everybody what's happening here, all the organized activities. Because as a young person in the district, and this is a sad part, but it's a fiscal issue, I went to Bryan Elementary School, and I lived only about 5 blocks away, and my parents felt I could walk there. And so I went there every summer to the rec program. And John Meyer, you probably remember the rec program.
Every playground was open. Every playground.
Every school had a playground. You played baseball. You did all kinds of things. You went to the Sea Festival. Unfortunately, that's cost prohibitive today. So because again, we don't have endless resources. But the issue is, if we were to do this type of option, we would again communicate to everyone what is available to our young people. The same way we do with ethnic studies. So again, it's about equity, making sure that, and if this were a successful program, it might be an issue where the board rotates the schools in the open, weekends. So it's not always the same school. Do you see what I'm saying? Because not everyone can go to the school based on, transportation needs and other issues.
Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Superintendent, I'd like to thank Susie Price for being here tonight, and I think she offers hope for a collaboration with the city. to jointly work together on opening some playgrounds in a joint program.
The city's a great partner.
Yeah, really. And as you mentioned earlier, when the Recreation Commission was alive and well a number of years ago, every single playground was open every weekday during the summer. Massive softball and volleyball, all kinds of programs. So I'd like to see the city step forward and help us in this.
I have one question before I share some thoughts. Thank you for putting this together. It's extremely helpful. I think I'm not sure which option this would fall under, Mr. Superintendent, but as part of the homework, I guess, to provide a little bit more information for us to make an informed decision, would be under this scenario, it considers the 1 day on the weekend or 2 days on the weekend, and then you shared why you didn't include the after school. Right. But for those schools that don't offer after school programming, I think it would be important to look at what would not a full day permit, right, but for a few additional hours after school look like. Okay. Understanding that at those schools that there's other programming going on, we need to, take that into consideration. All right. So could that be part of what you include for homework? And then some initial thoughts from just based on what you shared. So. This is the part where I can't take away that I'm a parent of a student in our district as well. So her favorite parts of the day include playing after school, right, at the school that she attends. And I also want to be very cognizant that the last 2 weeks, you put it very eloquently, Board Member Kerr, have been very difficult and very sad in our communities. So this is where schools and our district, again, can be a leader. As many of our folks refer to, schools are not just places of enlightenment. Schools are not just places where we uplift academics and academia. Schools can also be places of healing in many ways. And I firmly believe, as many folks articulated, and I know our district shares these same values, that we understand that schools are also part of the community building blocks. Unfortunately, we live in very different times than when you went to school at Bryant, Mr. Superintendent, or even when I went to school. I played every weekend at my elementary school, not so long ago, but after you. And this is what I want to share, really. Being equitable requires resources. And in a scenario where we don't have unlimited resources, then we need to prioritize in what areas that equity pays off with respect to our mission as a school district. So it's not just about saying we want to be equitable, right? That there are resources that are needed to be equitable and to advance equity. So with that in mind, I think keeping schools open, particularly playgrounds, right, over the summer, you mentioned programming over the summer, after school, and on weekends, I firmly believe that that's the best case scenario. But I do think that this equity piece, I want to be very delicate and conscientious. Isn't just about one school in every area. I know that's a scenario that was laid out, right? And a few comments that have already been made. It's also about recognizing that not all places in our school district or in our cities have other safe places in the community. Not just playgrounds and parks I'm talking about here, but even just walking back and forth 5 blocks is different today. Mr. Superintendent. And I know you didn't mean it in that way, but I think not everyone has the same sense of what it feels like to be safe in a neighborhood, that even at your park, it's not safe to be at, right? So I think it magnifies to me, if we're going to throw around words like equity, that even having one school open in one of each of our areas, there's a different consideration for what we're going to look at for those schools, right? So I do appreciate the time and effort and research that it took to do a half-mile analysis. I think that's a great beginning for us. But I also think that the equity conversation extends beyond our schools, into our neighborhoods, into quality of life, into certain parts of our district have more multi-family housing than other parts of our district. So even a walk around the neighborhood has a different tone and vibe attached to it. So I would ask our board members to consider that a pilot program would be great, a partnership with the city around these efforts would be great, but that we take a deeper dive into really understanding what it would mean, not just cost wise, because certainly you gave us the worst case scenario right here, $1.8 million, but also that if our intent is to be equitable and our intent is to maintain spaces in our schools in partnership with our city, that we also extend that conversation to other issues that we are challenged by in our neighborhoods, in our communities, around housing, around safety, around health, and the social determinants of a healthy community. I loved the whole body aspect of this. But that has different meaning, different tone, different perspective at a different neighborhood, right? So for all the work that can be done in putting up fences and taking down fences, that's not what we're talking about here. It's a broader conversation around what we mean by keeping a school open and what time, because we could have a school open, and some of us know in what neighborhoods. That doesn't mean that that school, after hours or on the weekend, is safe or will be safe. So I know that we need a little bit more information, Mr. Superintendent. I appreciate it. I totally favor and would support a pilot, but I wouldn't want it, and I know you didn't say it this way, and I know we wouldn't discuss it this way, to just be an arbitrary, we're gonna pick one school from, and I know that, but I want our community members here, our community members watching, to know that it's not just, hey, let's model after this school, or let's use the half-mile perimeter as a basis for understanding the context of what it means to keep a school open, not just the cost piece of it, but what it means for our communities, given the landscape of the issues that we outlined. So from a values perspective, fully supported. From an implementation perspective, I think we need more information.
And I just want to clarify, the cost that we talked about was for option 2. We don't truly know what the cost for option 3 is,
right,
because we have to do the homework.
Right, right. But again, that conversation with either Parks and Recs. Last thing I want to say is the community partnership piece extends to our nonprofit organizations. Right, this is an opportunity to explore. It's fine to have a school open in those areas where kids are already going to play and hang out, but how awesome would it be to be also able to offer programming there? And it doesn't necessarily just have to be the district offering that programming, right? So this is where, again, our community groups, our nonprofit organizations can also leverage their resources around additional programming that we may not have even thought of up to this point. So thank you.
And I thank you to my colleagues for their remarks. I echo most of them, all of them, and then just add a few more. I also want to thank Councilwoman Price for her support and partnership today, and all the city council members and the mayor's office who we've been in communication with. I know I've been in communication with about this issue for several weeks back and forth. So I want to acknowledge that the city is an incredibly strong partner. They always have been. The joint use agreement has been alive and well, and we know that the current overarching umbrella joint use agreement is in current negotiation, and it's something that we've been following and going back and forth on for many, many months, and we know that when that comes to completion and our security work is done, that this robust conversation then takes on a different tone. It becomes about what some of our options might be. What our next steps are to do joint use with the district and Parks and Rec. So I appreciate the acknowledgement that we'll do more homework on what that looks like, committee members, how we'll make those decisions. I heard a little rumbling around the still no bikes and skateboards issue on the campuses, and I understand that. I was a mom in this district for 17 years with 3 kids who lived close to an elementary school. I understand the place of community that our schools are. I know that I have friendships in this world that began the second day of kindergarten, dropping off, and that they continue as our kids go to college together. And it is more than just a place of learning. It is a place that we come together, and I think we try hard to have community schools and after-school programs and do the work while acknowledging that the world we live in is different, and what safety looks like today needs to be different than it looked like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So I look forward to us continuing to do work and potentially bring this back in December a little more fleshed out about what option 3 is. Ms. Craighead, I appreciate your comments about the PTA. My schools that my children went to were fortunate enough to have PTAs, and I understand the valuable tool that is to provide extras for students. But my heart breaks a little as I look at my list of schools and realize that only 2 of the schools I think that I represent have PTAs. And so the choice for them to use their own dollars to fund something like this would have to come from academic supports, social emotional supports, and they would have to choose. And what they would choose is to do what's in the best interest academically and social emotionally for our students, because that's our charge as public schools. And I think that's the difference between the acknowledgement that this is a school playground and not a public park, and that those are different. I also want to acknowledge the work that then Councilmember Lena Gonzalez, now Senator Gonzalez, did around park equity. They didn't talk as much about open space in the context of the city, but they talked deeply about programming and the inequities that happen in different parts of the city. And when you look at the dollars and the hours spent of park programming, it's a stark chart. I represent an amazing community north of the 405 freeway. And when I look at this list, so one of the things that I did for my homework also was to look at my schools, plot them on a map, and see what the access for park space was for them. I have one school that's fortunate to have a park 0.2 miles from them. It's 1.12 acres. I have another school that has a park within a half a mile of them, and it is 6.1 acres. But in their half a mile walk, they have to walk under a freeway to get there. So and Board Member Benitez, you acknowledge this, that this looks very different in our very different, beautifully diverse community that I love. We talk about Long Beach being a big city made up of neighborhoods, and this kind of information looks different for different families across the community. And I take that piece of equity so to heart, and I don't throw that word around easily. So as we move forward on what the potential is for this, understanding that it isn't necessarily about those random spots, and it isn't just about things being equal. It is about restoring justice to communities who have been without space for decades in some cases, and giving those communities, some of my schools that have been closed for 25 years, an opportunity to be part of something like this. Because it's not just about equal, it's about giving back and building back up communities that have lost out for a lot of years for me. So I appreciate all of the conversation. I appreciate those who've asked to meet with me, who have sent me letters and emails, and I will continue to listen and be responsive to that. And when I was asked, what does this mean to me? It isn't simply, let's just open the playgrounds. That is not an answer that my heart or my head can move forward with. It is a complex, justice-based decision that I think we need to make with our dollars in mind to provide the best spaces possible for our students who need them. So I look forward to continuing the conversation. The dollar amount, again, I've said before, school funding is like pie. We don't have the opportunity to increase our revenue by selling more things or adding another tax necessarily. That this is about, if money gets put to this use, it comes from somewhere else. And I'm cognizant very much as we continue to look at data of where that space is and what the needs of our students are. So I appreciate the patience and the partnership of our community and our city partners and our nonprofit partners who want to do this work with us. And I know it's not what people want to hear, but for me, this is a long-term conversation. This is, we need to come back next month and talk about some more things. February, that's, as always, an aggressive timeline from you, and I appreciate that we might look at doing something as early as that. But I am very aware that I want to get this right. So, thank you.
Chris, thank you so much for starting off this discussion. We appreciate it. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Board meeting schedule. Just a little background on what that's about, Chris.
Yes, we had to make some changes, and you can see them highlighted in the bold here. And so we just wanted the board to adopt the new schedule.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve change in schedule.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion is approved unanimously. Board Policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures. Just an update.
Yeah, this is, both of these policies, this one and the one on English language learners, are being revised to meet the new requirements of state law, basically.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. Board Policy 6174, Education for English Learners.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, and Superintendent, I think you covered it in your last statement, but just so that we're clear, is it the scope of Prop 58 that required our change in this, or I mean?
No, it's the new tests, the new standards,
Got
the
it.
cutoff scores.
Got it.
And you see them
Okay.
in the addendums in the back.
Got it, okay.
Further discussion.
There we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. We are now at report of board members. We'll go to our student board member, Cassandra.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, for allowing me to speak tonight and for being a great leader for our schools in Long Beach. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cassandra Keeve. I am the Fall 2019 AZ President at Long Beach Poly High School. Poly High School is a diverse, family-oriented campus. Our staff and teachers are always willing to support our fellow Jackrabbits, whether it is being a sponsor for a club or facilitating a project or providing emotional and academic support. Our staff and teachers are always willing to help. This year, our school theme is Ohana. I brought pins from Poly for our fellow board members here to give. And on the pin, it says Poly Ohana, which means Poly family. Poly embodies this family dynamic with ongoing programs, events, and projects on our campus. For instance, Poly has our first ever resource area called the Rabbit Hole, which is student run and led by our international ambassadors. The Rabbit Hole allows for a safe and open environment where students can get school supplies, personal care items, and clothing. Additionally, our Poly North Camp is a human relations program that provides a safe space for sophomores to bond with one another and to embody the One Poly, One Love mindset through a series of activities, dialogue sessions, and seminars. Furthermore, this bond and sense of giving within the Poly community allows our students to feel at home on campus and thrive in academics, athletics, music, theater arts, and leadership roles in clubs and organizations. This support system at Poly allows our students to flourish. The Care Center is another crucial part of our campus, being a welcoming place where peer counselors are trained to provide comfort, support, and advice to our fellow Jackrabbits. In addition, our Student of the Month celebrations have become very popular. Our pathway coordinator, Mr. Thurman Ashley, works with teachers and administration in recognizing students at different pathways. Poly is the home of scholars and champions, and it is important that we treat scholars as such importance with the same thing as our athletics. Likewise, Poly goes above and beyond in supporting not only our own campus, but the Long Beach community as a whole. Right now, we are concluding our Thanksgiving drive in which clubs and student commission are organizing and receiving donation boxes of canned food to give to needy families and for Thanksgiving. In addition, this upcoming month, Poly High School will be hosting a holiday project in which we invite elementary school students to Poly and host activities such as arts and crafts, puppet shows, and of course the main highlight, which is giving gifts. Poly Service Project allows our students to live our school's motto, which is enter to learn, go forward to serve. I would like to acknowledge our administration team, teachers, Long Beach Unified School District for your support, Mr. Salas for being a great principal, and Mr. Puth, our activities director. Lastly, I want to thank Student Commission for all their hard work in supporting our student body. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Cassandra, did you want to recognize someone? I heard a name mentioned. Did you want to?
Yes, I would like to recognize Mr. Salas, who is sitting right there, for all his support and all his hard work that has contributed to Poly High School.
Thank you. What's your current status there? Are you a senior?
Yes, I'm a senior at Poly.
And what are your plans for further education?
So right now I'm applying to colleges. I apply to Cal State Long Beach, of course, because I love Long Beach as a city. And I apply to UCSD, UC Irvine, and I'm looking forward to where I'm headed in the future.
You should be able to get any one of those. You know, you're just.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for that presentation, your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kerr.
Yes, I'll just be brief. Thank you for sharing. It's always great to be reminded why we do this work and to know that we have incredible students who are constantly giving back and going over and above. So I am always appreciative, and I love sitting next to our student board members, so thank you. I will be brief and just want to thank or acknowledge that Operation School Bell happened at Roosevelt Elementary School with the incredible partnership of the Assistance League, which has been going on for decades, and they provide school supplies and clothing for tens of thousands of students in this district every year, and we couldn't do this without them. And to our DCAC and DLAC parents, I was able to attend those meetings and want to thank them for their yearly commitment to come and to find out the information, ask the tough questions, and bring it back to their school sites, and to staff for putting on a phenomenal high school choice fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Dr. Benitez.
Yes, sorry, and I have a pill in my mouth because my throat has been bothering me tonight. I want to just share that I haven't had a chance to go out and visit all the schools in my area of the district yet, but I'm going to try to squeeze in before our Thanksgiving break a visit. So I'm looking forward to visiting all the schools. We have, I think, 6 new principals to the schools, not new principals in the district in my area. So I'm looking forward to those visits. Just like I shared at our last school board meeting, I'm super appreciative of students and parents and community members coming out, now that we have a clear room here at the end of the meeting. But just how important it is for our community members to continue to come to our board meetings. As you've heard here from our comments today, we take your comments very seriously and into strong consideration when we have our recommendations, conversations, and make decisions as well. Please keep calling, keep emailing. If you have our numbers, you know who you are. Keep texting. Those are all super important. One, to inform our decision making, but 2, there may be things that we're not considering, right? So multiple perspectives are much appreciated, as our superintendent calls these multiple perspectives, sometimes positive disruptors, right? We're good with positive disruptors. That being said, I think tonight's conversation around keeping schools open, or opening schools in other cases, brings to mind some budget considerations that I'm looking forward to our district, and we've had conversations about this. I'm calling it this, moving forward with some kind of public education campaign where we can share information about our very complex budget, right? And particularly how the budget translates at the school level with regards to materials, programs, services. Our budget is not an easy document to understand, but neither are the funding sources. And so all of that is taken into account in our considerations as well. And again, how that translates at the school site level, I think is important for us to use it as an educational opportunity, but also highlight the considerations that we make as your board to either move forward on things, reprioritize, and or change sometimes if we need to. So I want to say that because there will be other items coming up at our board meetings and even in between board meetings that have a budget piece attached to them. I know you're looking at me. I'm not going to say it, Brent. I'm not going to tell anyone what to vote for or who to vote for. But I think we need to educate ourselves, right, in terms of how we make decisions, and that those sometimes are cost prohibitive, other times require for us to prioritize certain things because we have a pie that needs to get divided up into what those priorities are. I think one of the good things that our district does and will continue to do is be very clear about what our priorities are, right, around student success. But within those priorities, there are nuances that can help to inform our decisions. So I just want to share that because as we move forward, this budget piece, and in the next coming years, right, understanding the state level budget piece, the local area budget piece, and then the national budget piece, and what impact all of those three sort of spaces have on our decision making and ultimately in providing the highest quality possible public education to our students. So I'll be saying some things individually, and I know our board will be moving forward on those considerations that we take into account with regards to budget items and other resources.
Thank you very much. Diana.
Yes, I had the honor of swearing in the Emerson Student Council. That was very exciting, so congratulations to them. And also the honor to participate in the MacArthur swearing in of the Student Council, which actually was a culmination of a 4-week civics project assisted by the Lakewood mayor, the vice mayor, the deputy city manager of Lakewood, and it even included a walking field trip to the water department. So these students at MacArthur did a project where they were the city council and they had to vote on things and they had to conduct a meeting and see what it feels like to be on this side of things and make decisions. I thought it was great. I hope that the city of Lakewood does that all the time, and hopefully with all the schools, because I think it's very beneficial. Also, on October 24th, our United States Marine Band performed at Poly at the Andrew Osmond Performing Arts Center. I was in attendance there. It was very exciting to be at Poly in the auditorium and have this band that's been in existence over 200 years. They refer to themselves as the President's Own. I think that came about when Jefferson was president. But that music, the quality of that music and the patriotism and sitting in that auditorium, looking over, seeing Mr. Osmond enjoying himself, having different, not conductors, but when you write the music, anyhow, go up on stage and be acknowledged because they're in that audience. And from what I understood, there were people that came from all over Southern California, music educators, all kinds of people. So it was a very big to-do. And I think one of my favorite parts was this performance of Casey at the Bat. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's this this whole thing. It was kind of half performance, half music. I liked it up until the point where When that was finished, the sergeant started to make some kind of joke about the Dodgers choking, anyhow, it did not go over well. I think it was too soon and not a popular decision. And then I'd like to thank Jill Baker and Kellyanne. I know Jill Baker's not here tonight. She's representing us in Washington, D.C. But our district hosted a 3-day conference on the Leading for Equity conference, and we had people. You're going to talk more about that, I'm sure, because you served on a panel. I didn't get to come see you that day. I came the next day, but we were hosting people from all over the United States, and I think that was a very successful event. And I'll leave it to you to fill in a lot of those big holes. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Meyer.
Well, thank you. I too attended that collaborative, and there's so much in the Long Beach Unified School District to be proud about. But as you pointed out, Dr. Jill Baker and Kellyanne and Ed Samuels and Brian Moskowitz did a wonderful job there. I got to catch the last part of Brian's presentation and heard all of the panel discussion with Chris Steinhauser and Dr. Felton Williams and the superintendent from Chula Vista. And the issue of equity and developing strong leadership for the future attracted 29 different school districts to this conference. So outstanding work, and it was a joy to be there. Attended a couple football games, Lakewood against Compton and Wilson against Milliken. And as Chris Steinhauser will attest, Wilson never loses to Milliken. I'm sorry about that, Diana.
Yeah, but Milliken was ahead at the half, right? Am I right on that? Okay.
They were. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Just briefly, again, I want to reiterate some of the comments that were made earlier about the Wallace Foundation site visit, Leading for Equity. Interestingly enough, I just came back into town on Sunday, looked at my computer, and saw a message from Jill Baker that I would be speaking on Tuesday, and just said, that's what happens when you leave. But in truth, and being there and listening to the discussion about our work here in Long Beach and how that work has really served our students and our community was very, very heartwarming to see people from so many places around this country who came to hear about Long Beach Unified School District. And it makes a huge statement about what goes on here each day, day in and day out, and the importance of that work for our kids. I also wanted to just comment on Mrs. Kerr's remarks about Operation School Bell, and to see our kids receive that kind of support, the uniforms, and at this particular event, there were just more than just uniforms being handed out. They had the 2 large dogs there that you can come up and pet, and who were there for a purpose of letting kids know that, these dogs are there for a special purpose. But more importantly is the work that Operation School Bell does and its impact on this district. The fact that kids in some of our high poverty areas can get clothing that takes away the stigma of having to walk into a classroom, takes that issue completely off the table by the fact of the work that they do. I can't remember the number that they said they were trying to reach. It was a huge number, and they've already done a lot over the years.
Yeah, I think it's 10,000.
Amazing, amazing work, and I know that has a tremendous impact in the classroom because kids are not looking at each other's clothing. They're able to focus on what's going on in the classroom. Very critical. And so many other things that are much like that in this district that I just don't see in other districts around this nation. But, when you look at the range and number of business partners that we have, how all these services come together to do one thing and make a difference in the outcomes of our kids that adds to all the good work that goes on in this district. At the last meeting, I reported somewhat a little bit on our recruitment of African American teachers. And I didn't touch the second part of that because of the time issue, and I know it's late tonight. So I'm going to make this as quick as possible. But I didn't talk about the other component of that. I didn't talk about the retention component. And when I sent the letter to Chris, I also talked about not only recruiting African American male teachers, but I also talked about the retention component of that because it's important, particularly where we see we may hire a teacher and before you know it, that teacher leaves. So I also wanted to address that piece of it as well. But I think about my own personal journey. Years ago when I first got my first offer of employment at Cal State Long Beach, and hired there as a staff analyst, and my job was to change the registration system from a manual system to a computer system. And most of you who had gone to school back in those days knew what that registration system was like, the old one, where you stood in a long line on a hill, snaking down to the bottom of the hill in a bungalow with the classes posted on the wall. And if your class happened to get pulled off that wall, you had to change your whole program. That's what it was. So I was hired to deal with that. And my boss was the Dean of Instructional Services. He reported directly to the Vice President for Academic Affairs. And my boss was in charge of admissions records, the library, audiovisual, TV, and a $3 million academic support budget. I was an anomaly when I was hired. An anomaly at that time on that campus because there weren't a lot of folks that looked like me. And I got a lot of attention, some not so good, some indifferent, with people coming to my office to look and wonder why in the heck I was there. I was all of 22 years old, and it was a tough time to have to deal with that. There were many times I thought about leaving. Many times I thought about quitting. But over time, that began to change as more and more acceptance came along. We had a new president, the second president in the history of that college, Dr. Steve Horn, who was there to, coming off of the Civil Rights Commission before he became president at Long Beach State, trying to diversify that institution. And he ran into a lot of headwinds from the Academic Senate at that time. Got a little vicious with respect to the mission that he was trying to put in place and the resistance that he was getting from the Academic Senate. But over time, things began to just take shape and form. As I got to know more and more of my middle management colleagues who we got a chance to socialize together, I felt more accepted at that campus. The president's door was wide open. And I know one time I felt so badly about things there, I asked if he can set up an opportunity for me to leave. And he did. He scheduled an appointment for me to meet with then Vincent Thomas, who was an assemblyman in San Pedro. And Vincent Thomas offered me a job. And at that moment, I thought I made a decision to leave Long Beach State. Something happened. We got a person there who was trying to develop the graduate program in public policy and administration. And he asked if I would stay and work with him to develop that program. I told him I would think about it. I came back the next day and I said yes. And over time, we put together the graduate program in public policy and administration. Then after that, of course, I left and went on to Cal State Dominguez Hills, where I served as assistant to the president, director of affirmative action. But I say all of this to say that that kind of experience and what I've noticed in organizations, how difficult it is for certain folks to find their footing in some of these environments, particularly African Americans. And that retention data, as we look at it, and the information that I had mentioned in my letter to Chris, really outlines some of the problems, not only recruiting, but retaining these individuals. So not only do we need to look at the recruitment, but we need to look at programs that will help keep them here. And I don't want to make a demand that I don't support. I do have some ideas about that I'd be willing to help work with and be happy to help support that. So that's my report. Superintendent's report.
Yes, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, I want to thank the board for your leadership, and we have a great community. And as you said, Dr. Benitez, nonprofits and the Assistance League and other organizations. And so as we go down this journey with the use of our facilities, I'm sure Long Beach, again, will be the leader of all urban places. The other part I do want to give out a shout out. I don't usually shout out on sports. I go to many, many sporting events, but Pauley and Milliken made some history, water polo. So CIF wins, and so they're going into the next round. Wilson going into the next round. So water sports are alive and well. And this weekend, this Friday, we have lots of good football with Pauley, Lakewood, and Wilson going on to their own divisions. And so I share that with you because it goes back to the holistic piece that Long Beach is. It's not just about academics, it's about the whole child. I was fortunate to play under Coach Meyer, and obviously I wasn't the best player in the world, or I would be doing other things today. But it was a great program, and I'm proud of our coaches, as you said, Mrs. Kerr, because it is not just the clock that they do. It really is about mentoring and mentorship and other things. So great programs to all these folks, because when I was a kid, Pauley wasn't known for its water polo program. But Pauley has been known for its water polo program and swim programs. Again, just showing what great things can happen in the system. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. We are now at announcements.
Yes, I have one, if you please. Felton, you had it wrong. You didn't walk down the hill, you've walked up the hill, and you've done a great job. And in that vein, I want to call everyone's attention to the feat that will be at where it's located. Doesn't tell me where the thing is Saturday night. Is it the Hyatt?
Hilton.
Hilton, at the Hilton. The NACP will recognize Dr. Felton Williams with an outstanding award, and I hope that some of you folks can be there. The theme of the evening is promoting equity, justice, and courage, and I think Dr. Williams represents all of those attributes.
Thank you, John. How much do I owe you for that? Any other announcements?
Yes. I'm going to say something nice about Wilson, even though I had a disparaging remark over here against Milliken.
Just the truth.
Ooh. In the interest of time, the Wilson PTSA and this school district will be presenting a documentary called Love Them First, and it's based on a inner city school in Minnesota. I think it's Minneapolis. And it's going to be Saturday, November 16th, 11 o'clock at the Art Theater. Tickets are available at the Art Theater website, the Wilson School Loop website, go to Parent Involvement, and Wilson PTSA Facebook page. They are welcoming donations of $5, although it is free. You just have to sign up because it's limited space. But the documentary is called Love Them First. And from what I understand, it's very impactful. So maybe bring tissues, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Diana. Very quick, OMS has brought on 2 student interns that will be helping with the work of OMS. Miles Womack, who's a Poly grad, and Darlene Tith, who's from Sato, a senior ASB president, will be joining OMS and supporting the work that you guys are doing. fantastic. And also, we brought someone in to handle the Long Beach Call, Director of Long Beach Call, Michelle Tomasian, who will be coming in to take over the Long Beach Call position. And Kihao, who was temporary staff, is now full-time, Kihao Fujikama. So welcome to all of those folks. Any other announcements?
My announcement is I'd like to know what kind of athlete our superintendent was, Coach Myers.
He was an outstanding student in the classroom, first of all. I had him in a history and anthropology class, but he was a starting guard on one of the last football teams to defeat Poly. Very tenacious, very intelligent, dependable, represents all of the qualities that he shows us as superintendent of our district.
That's
there you
good.
go, Mr.
That's good
Superintendent.
All right, thank you, John. And you get your question answered?
Thank you.
You got the question answered?
I was just messing around.
Okay. All right. In closing the meeting, I want to just, in memory of an individual, I know Megan has a person as well, but this Steve Molesky, who worked with us for years in our OMS department. A little just side note about Steve, when you watch the district on the TV production, that work is a result of a small number of certificated and classified employees who have given us one of the greatest instructional TV systems in the country. Steve Molesky was a pioneer in helping the district transition into the digital age. He worked for OMS for many years, then retired a few years ago, but his work provided a foundation for the exciting digital development we are enjoying today. He will be missed. Megan?
Yes. Tonight I ask that we close our meeting in honor of Joey and Rahan Dakil Aweda and their 3-year-old son, Omar. This beautiful family was tragically run down by a suspected drunk driver on Halloween night in the Los Cerritos neighborhood. They have deep roots in our Long Beach community. Joey's mom, Vera, was born and raised in North Long Beach and attended Jordan High School. Vera and her husband, Yosef, own and run a local auto repair business that was in West Long Beach and now in Cal Heights. They're longtime residents of Bixby Knolls. Their 4 sons all attended local public schools, including Longfellow, Hughes, Marshall, and Poly High Schools. Their son, Omar, died tragically in 2013 when he was a student at Marshall Middle School, and our school communities rallied in strong support of the family. A proud jackrabbit, Joey graduated from Poly High School, attended UC Irvine, and came back and helps manage his family business. His wife, Rahan Dakil, just completed her master's in social work from CSULB and was an intern here in LBUSD last year. 3-year-old Omar, a joyful young boy who loved to sing, attended school at Isabel Patterson CDC at CSULB. They were deeply committed to their family, their faith, and their community. This young family exuded goodness and generosity and kindness. They spent time volunteering in Long Beach and in their faith community. They even volunteered at For the Child, both of them, an organization that supports families and children experiencing trauma. Principal Navia shared that his last interaction with Joey was at their auto shop, where Joey was telling him that the family would pay for the car repairs of a former student who was now experiencing homelessness. This is just one example of the good and justice-filled hearts of this wonderful family. I ask that you hold them and their families, especially their mom Vera, father Yusuf, brothers Masood and Adam, and Rahan's family and their entire extended family in your hearts and prayers. They will be deeply missed across our community.
Thank you, Megan. We'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And before you all leave, just let me say what a wonderful group. They're just sitting up here with all you do. Can we get a group photo, Chris, before?
Also,
We are adjourned.